Thank you, Brian and Aaron, and hello, everyone. You're starting 2017 able to do more with your television set than ever before, especially if your set comes with smarts or devices attached to your set that bring the smarts, such as Chromecast, Apple TV, Amazon Fire TV, Roku, and Shield. You can watch programs, a growing number in ultra-high-definition picture quality, play increasingly complex games, order merchandise, and connect with services from Airbnb to Zillow. One app, Little Star, based here in New York, lets you move the picture with a swipe of your remote or Siri command, any direction you want, in virtual reality fashion. What lies ahead for TVs and what we watch or use them for this year? Let's pose that question to a top observer of media technology developments and trends, Dana Wollman, the Brooklyn-based managing editor of popular web journal Engadget. Dana, welcome to BK Live.
Thank you for having me.
What did CES in Las Vegas earlier this month tell you and your colleagues about where TV stands?
TVs getting thinner and also getting more affordable, I think. What's been striking for me is until now, CES has been sort of this showroom for aspirational objects, right? Things that the rest of us can't afford, maybe an $85,000 TV. But what we're seeing now are really thin, beautiful, as you said, smart TVs that I think increasingly people will be able to afford. So I think that's sort of why we're here today. Is we're not just talking about the future, but I think things that people will actually be able to buy.
And those sets, Dana, and those plugins, too, have more and more power. For example, one of the interesting announcements I thought got bypassed at CES was that Amazon, whose Fire TV stick or plug-in is being used by millions of people, is now an operating system in a number of television sets. So if you have a set from Seiki, which is out of China, or Westinghouse, yes, there is a Westinghouse, for all you senior observers, there's a Westinghouse that makes TV sets, and some other manufacturers, they're going to offer this spring smart sets that have Amazon as an operating system.
So it's sort of funny that you bring that up because anyone who's watching CS would have noticed that Amazon kind of stole the show, right? The Alexa assistant was just baked into everything, and Amazon did kind of steal the show, even though itself wasn't exhibiting at CES. And in terms of TVs, it's funny to me because previously a site like ours, Engadget, may have kind of written off the Fire TV products. We may have said, well, these work well, but why would you buy this when you can buy an Apple TV or a Roku? But I think now that you are going to see that platform in so many different home objects, even cars going forward, I think people might give the Fire TV platform a second look, especially if it is already baked into TVs and not sold as a plug-in dongle.
What do you think about the fact that both with Amazon, with Alexa, and Apple TV with Siri, that you can now command your TV set in ways that maybe a couple of years ago you never could have before? I think back to the Mr. Robot episode that Sam Esmail did last summer, where we have this FBI agent character who's ready to go to bed, and she's speaking to Siri, and at the very end of the scene says, "Do you love me?" And Alexa answers. Is that where we're going with products like Siri and products like Alexa? We are going to be able to command anything through the television set with them?
Just about. I think the challenge for technology companies is that people have very little patience. And I think if they have enough bad experiences with voice control technology, might not be willing to come back to it. And I think a lot of people who own, let's say, an iPhone might be aware that Siri isn't so reliable all the time. And there might be a lot of people, myself included, who don't use Siri as often as they would otherwise just because they've had some crummy experiences. And so I think there are so many possibilities, but also a fairly narrow window for these technology companies to get it right and win people's admiration and trust in the technology.
Dana, one of your colleagues at Engadget did a video segment at CES about an interesting smartphone app. We're going to play that clip in a second. It's called a face camera. And it's interesting because here we have a smartphone app, and I wondered as I saw this whether or not this may have some TV possibilities. Let's play the clip. We'll talk about it on the other side.
Sure.
3D selfies aren't really a new kind of technology, but the demonstration we're seeing here at CES 2017 out of a startup called Bellows 3D, it's actually the most realistic we've ever seen. After a 15-second scan that was relatively painless and quick, the camera kind of got a very detailed high-res scan of my face, and you can print that out as a 3D model, send it to your 3D printing shop, or use it on your in-game avatar. And people can probably use this to improve the look of supposedly lifelike looking human dolls, which on its own has a lot of valuable applications. Also, I could see the surface of my skin with all the scars that I always have that I normally don't see on other photos or captures. So I'm very interested to see how this will translate to real world results and all the other interesting applications. Developer models of the hardware, which is a camera with 1 RGB sensor and 2 monochrome sensors that enables the technology, that's going to come out for under $1,000 later this year. 100 units will be available for developers to play with. So we're going to see applications roll out more likely towards next year. Until then, we'll just have to wait and play with our 3D selfies for our own amusement.
And when I see an app that Sherilyn just described, wouldn't that work on the television set as well?
In theory, I think. And mind you, this is all speculative, of course. What we've seen is just a prototype, and it's now in the hands of developers who are flexing their imaginations and figuring out just what to do with this technology. But I think some of the use cases could potentially apply to the big screen, the television. We've heard of it possibly being used for gaming avatars that would be more realistic, for better and worse than the avatars that gamers have now. And we've heard it used potentially for online shopping. Let's say buying something like sunglasses or a hat that maybe you would be putting on your face or your head. And to the extent that shopping and gaming are both things that can be done through the television, I think it certainly is possible.
And that breaks up a bigger question. When you go to an event like CES or TechCrunch Disrupt and you see smartphone or tablet apps like this, one thing that comes to mind is, are these app developers looking at the television set? When you have an Apple TV that a year ago had 1,000 apps, now you have 9,000. A quarter of them are games. You have Airbnb, you have Zillow, you have Home Advisor. You can even, if you have an Amazon Prime subscription, you can actually, through Apple TV right now, order Amazon merchandise, anything from their catalog on the set. It even beats what Amazon's doing. They're not doing that right now. Are the app developer community thinking about using television as their next conquest?
I think they are, but I think some of that does get lost in their conversations with people like us from the tech press. I think a first priority is, aside from just getting awareness of the app, tends to still be mobile. That doesn't mean they're not thinking about TV as a platform or that these apps couldn't translate to a bigger format.
Mm-hmm. One last question, Dana. Virtual reality. Mm-hmm. There was quite a bit of it at CES, quite a bit since. Do you think virtual reality can work on the television set? Little Star's having a thing this Wednesday where they're showcasing their app that's been around for a year on Apple TV, where you can use Siri or use your Apple remote to maneuver the picture any way you want.
I think so, and I think we're already headed in that direction. I think there are a couple different things that need to align for it to be a really ideal experience. Obviously, one is the content available, and we've already seen some steps in that direction. For instance, NBC dabbled in 360 cameras for portions of the Olympics this past summer. Same for the Coachella Music Festival last spring. So I think content is definitely stepping in a direction that's optimized for VR, and I think the hardware itself needs to become more available, and I think the processing power needs to get better.
And we'll see. And by the way, Google Chromecast has said in an event last year that they may be working on a virtual reality app for television. We'll see. Dana, great to have you in BK Live. Let's have you back soon.
Thank you for having me.
It's a pleasure. And you can catch Dana's coverage of technology, media in general, at www.engadget.com. Comcast Cable Systems in the New York metro area nationwide are launching 2 channels this month. Both are independently owned and directed at Latino children and their families. One is Kids Central from Condista, and we'll showcase what they're doing later this afternoon on Tomorrow We Televised. Condista President Jorge Fitiere and Executive Javier Prelucker will be on hand. Meantime, Born to Explore, the popular Saturday morning portion of Litton's Weekend Adventure on Channel 7, is jumping to PBS this month. Learn why from Emmy-winning host Richard Weiss and executive producer Mercedes Velgat. All today at 3 on Blog Talk Radio. And join me Friday at the same time and place. We'll have Lizzie Weiss, the creator and executive producer of Switched at Birth, Freeform's Peabody-winning family drama, whose final season begins on January 1st. And Brian and Aaron catching up on that guest from Black Wall Street a few moments ago. WGN America is working on a pilot of a series, a drama series on that era. And if they go forward with it, it'll come on either this fall or next year.
All right, come through. Come on, Underground, the evolution.
From the network that brought you Underground, yes.
Yeah, John Legend.
Thank you, John Legend. All right.
Some people might not know that today's a very special day for our co-host Simon Applebaum, who's sitting over there. We want to say happy birthday to Simon. And we all chipped in and got you this new age TV dinner.
TV dinner cake. There we go.
Yes. Oh.
Some people like cupcakes. Simon is a TV guy, so we got him a TV dinner. Happy birthday,
Thank
sir.
you, Brian.
Keep
Thank you
on
very
living.
To many, many more years and many more shows.
Thank you,
God
thank you.
bless you. We appreciate
Thank
you.
you.
How do you like your birthday cake?
I love it. I love it.